Was that like a wise ass comment?
So get your facts straight.
It's an outrage.
What is going on? This is the Philly Experience podcast. I'm Tanner Gilmartin and Tyre Hood from WIP. Can't forget his title over there. He's running shows. And it's a very exciting time to be talking about Philadelphia sports. As we all know, the Phillies in the World Series.
Yeah.
The Eagles are 6-0. The Flyers 5-2. And the Philadelphia Union are in the conference finals. And also, there is another team playing in Philadelphia right now. That is the Philadelphia 76ers, who are 1-4. But beside that, we got a lot to be excited about, T. A lot to be excited about. The Philadelphia Phillies, as I mentioned, are in the World Series. Who would have thought? Definitely not T. What do you have to say for yourself, T?
Oh boy. All right. So I might have, over the past couple of episodes talked down about a certain Philadelphia baseball team. I may have said some things that were, turned out not to be true, turned out not necessarily, didn't necessarily come to fruition.
We have the receipts too. We definitely have the receipts here somewhere.
Yeah, I know. You don't have to remind me. Yeah, they made it to the playoffs, and it's an absolute shocker. I would say, I guess for you and Max, it wouldn't necessarily be a shocker, but for me, it is. This is a team that has, come close for a number of years, but no cigar. Not only do they make the playoffs, but damn it, tonight, as we're recording this tonight, they actually play in the World Series against the Houston Astros. So, I gotta eat crow a little bit.
I can't believe it.
I said this team wasn't worth 2 cents. I said this team wasn't shit. I said this team will always fail, and this team has finally, realized their potential. And you know what? I got to give myself one of these. Unfortunately,
You big dummy.
I got to give myself one of those.
Hell yeah, T. You know, it takes a big person to admit they were wrong. And when it comes to the Phillies, I mean, Max and I, we thought this team would go to the playoffs, but we did not think, at least I didn't think, they were going to the World Series.
No.
I mean, I had one friend specifically after that first game of the series, they won, and he texted me World Series bound. I was like, okay, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But now that's all I hear from him, saying he told me so and everything like that. But this, I just keep waking up, T, and I'm like, are the Phillies really in the World Series?
Yeah.
I mean, now we have to deal with people who have not watched a single Phillies game all season. They'll be at the bar. They'll be watching the World Series.
Of course.
But you know what? You take that and you say there's more fans going to be in the seats, whether they're business guys who got these tickets from their job. They better be loud over there because that middle of the week for in Philadelphia, that's going to be crucial. How loud they are, and I do expect a lot of Phillies fans to make that travel over to Houston, especially when you hear the tickets are cheaper, even when you combine them with the flight as well, than coming here to Citizens Bank Park. But T, let's get more into this as a game being played between these two, the Astros and the Philadelphia Phillies. Game 1 is tonight at 8:03, as all the games are at 8:03. Game 2 Saturday. Game 3 is Monday. They avoided in kind of going together with Sunday football. The MLB said, you know what, we know we can't compete with the NFL. I mean, in the Philadelphia area, they might be able to, because you have the Eagles game at 1:00. You go home, you watch the Phillies game. That's
So we know it's hard.
Pretty eventful, pretty good day. But they played their cards right. They're skipping Sunday. Game 3 on Monday. Game 4 Tuesday. Game 5 Wednesday. 6 Friday. And 7 Saturday. T. Before we get into the details and the matchups and the keys, How do you think this series is going to turn out, T?
I can tell you from a professional standpoint and what the players are thinking. They're thinking at least, they're pretty much thinking the same formula they executed against the San Diego Padres, and it's split split while we're away. If you can take at least one of those games while away, you got 3 straight games at home. And I think that's where the advantage really, takes place. I mean, we saw in the San Diego Padres series, I mean, the minute that the series shifted to Citizens Bank Park,
Oh, yeah.
I mean the crowd had a huge impact. Tanner, I have never heard a louder crowd like that a day in my life in any venue that I've ever been to. I mean, hell, I'm very familiar with the South Philadelphia area. So for all my South Philly people, like, this is going to be extreme when I say this, but their cheers could be heard from all the
Oh,
way to
yeah.
18th and Tasker. Guys,
Yeah.
that is a hell of a distance. Home field advantage. It's a huge asset, especially when the Phillies. It just seems like those players just feed off of the fans. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And like I said, if they can split the series the same way they did in San Diego, just win one. If you win two, that's just icing on the cake. But if you just win one and bring it back to Philadelphia, doggone it, Houston doesn't know what's coming. And then here's also another advantage as well. I know the Houston Astros, they play in a dome, from what I've read and heard. So they're going to have their roof, over top of
Yeah.
the venue. Where here, you're going to deal with the elements. You're going to deal with the cold. And if it rains, you're going to deal with the rain as well. And I think that also favors the Phillies as well, as we've seen in the San Diego series, because these guys know how the weather is up here. Guys coming from San Diego, they're dealing with 75-degree weather all year long. They're not dealing with, the shit that we got to deal with in the wintertime. It's the same thing with the Houston Astros. They're going to have to come up here and deal with the elements. And I don't think they're going to be able to handle that.
Yeah, and they, have the choice of whether opening up the top or closing it. They are closing it. You are right with that. And T, just going on your point about how proud Philly fans should be with the way that they've kind of turned the tides for the series, the past series, and also not being as ridiculous as the opponents with releasing a kind of music video for San Diego. Don't know if you saw that, T.
Yeah, I kind
But I'll save you from cringing if you haven't. I mean, this
of
was
horrible.
an embarrassing video. You'll see it on Twitter. Just search, I don't know, Padres stupid music video, something like that on Twitter. It was embarrassing, and that might be one of the reasons they lost the series. But this is more challenging matchup with the Houston
Okay.
Astros, a 106 win team. T. The Phillies won 87 games. The game is in Houston, and this is not a new feeling for the Astros at all. They've won four of the six last AL pennants the Astros have taken. The only other team to do that is the Yankees in playoff era baseball.
Nice.
And we talk about how many wins the Phillies have compared to the Astros. In 1906, the Cubs, who had 116 wins, played the White Sox in the World Series, who had 93 wins. Now, that's a 23 win difference. The Phillies and the Astros is just a 19 win difference. But by the way, the White Sox beat the Cubs in the World Series. The Astros are 7-0 in the postseason. They obviously didn't have to play that wild card series.
Right.
And the Phils are 9-2. Both teams did not face elimination. And these are two good teams. One of them very surprising to be at this part, but the Astros too. This is a team who has a lot of controversy behind their World Series victory. They changed house because they had to. Some guys were suspended. The coach was not allowed to return to the team for a year. Then they decided to go with Dusty Baker, who is on a revenge tour, I guess you could say, because he wants that ring as not just a player, which he already has. I mean, he's going to the Hall of Fame no matter what, but he wants that coach ring as well. And there could be some experience comparisons with Rob Thompson, relatively new to this team too. This is his first year, half
Yes.
year coaching this team, and they've gone to the World Series after just a terrible midseason happening with firing Joe Girardi.
Who'd have thunk it?
And yeah, and Rob Thompson is now the first Canadian-born coach in a World Series. I do believe. T. The keys for this game. What is one crucial key for you in this matchup? Whether it's just one specific game, one player, or how the series should kind of alter.
At the end of the day, man, first off, before I even get into my one pointer,
Yeah.
here's another stat that I don't that you had mentioned that a lot of people have overlooked. Any team that has entered the World Series and they've gone undefeated, they've lost in the World Series.
Hmm. Wow.
So just putting that out there. I know you mentioned that the Houston Astros are 7-0, that they haven't
Yeah.
lost at all to any opponent that they faced. But they're going into this undefeated, and let's just put it this way: history and the stats, are against them. But
Yeah.
if I had to point out one thing that this Phillies team has to do, man, could just the one thing, and this may sound corny and this may sound redundant, but man, just continue doing what you've been doing to get to this point. Everything. The defense has improved. The pitching from the rotation and including the bullpen has improved. The bats has improved. Bryce Harper has stepped up. You're getting players stepping up that that really didn't step up during the course of the season. Hell, even Nick Castellanos is starting to show a little bit of life. Just keep doing what you've been doing to get to this point. Don't change a damn thing. Keep grinding. Keep going. Bring this damn series back to Philadelphia so we can celebrate on Broad Street, damn it.
Yeah, and that's fair enough to say, T. I'm going to go a different way than you. I say not only play the good ways that you've been playing, but you have to improve too. As a team facing the Astros, the defense has been very suspect. I mean, we talk about even those few games before the playoffs started. It was atrocious the way they were playing. There's a couple of errors. You look at Reese Hoskins at first base. You're always kind of unsure if they're going to get out of an inning if the ball goes to first base with his inconsistent glove. Um, it's been, I think they're ranked 24th this season on defense, and the Astros rank third, right? And in baseball, it is a mental sport. Baseball is.
That's
You
awesome.
make mistakes when you start thinking too much about it, or if you don't know where you're going the next play and the ball comes to you, you're making mistakes. You have to be on point, especially on a stage like the World Series.
Agreed.
And they have a lot of players who should just be designated hitters. Let's
Yes.
be honest, T. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of power bats, but you have Bryce Harper, who wasn't the best in the outfield. Now he is a DH, went to the All-Star game. He didn't play, but he was, designated hitter. Um, the first to be nominated designated hitter, last year's MVP. But him not being in the outfield and possibly causing, a few errors, but instead hitting home runs on offense and then just resting while his team is out in defense and being that fan in the dugout, that has helped the Phillies out tremendously. You have Brandon Marsh, who was brought in to be that big defensive player. He's made some mistakes, but you look in the last series and he had a good catch,
He did.
a potential game-saving catch. Um, the eye test alone, they're just inferior compared to the Houston Astros.
Oh yeah.
But they really need to improve, and hopefully in this time off that they've had a lot of time off. Both teams. I hope they are doing some field drills. I saw Gene Segura actually loaded up on the plane in his uniform. This is the first time him going to the World Series. Even it was his first time in the postseason, and he was playing spectacular in that last game. Diving all over the field, making catches. But for that to improve, and now for something to stay consistent with how they've been going, I'm going to look at the Astros, and I hope that the most decorated hitter in postseason history stays cold. how he has been because Jose Altuve has started 0-25 until his 2 hits in his last game that they played. Um, Bregman is going to be a problem no matter what.
Yeah.
He is, after being moved to the 4 spot, he's batting over 300 because it's just agreeing with him in that 4 spot. And let's hope that Kyle Schwarber keeps playing. He started off awful in the playoffs, but he keeps playing the way he has been playing. He's taken over that Schwarbaum status. 3 home runs in his last 15 at bats in the NLCS. He now has 12 career home runs in the playoffs. Rhys Hoskins, I talked about his defense, but also at the plate. He needs to get a little better, although he has had some clutch hits. He's batting, I believe he has just 8 hits in the postseason, 5 of which were dingers, and they were clutch. But he's going to need to be better in order to beat the Stros. He doesn't need to just be hitting home runs. When he's not hitting home runs, he needs to be getting on base, giving other guys RBI opportunities, hitting guys home, staying on base, and making it a bigger inning. And Bryce Harper, the hottest hitter in baseball right now. We know Max has a picture of him on his wall.
Oh, of course.
He is hitting 419. He has 6 doubles, 5 home runs, 11 RBIs, 10 runs. And it's just, he is built for this stage. We've heard that, but let's see it. Let's see this type of play continue. And let's see him bring back what he told the fans he was going to bring back to Philadelphia. Not to mention, you got those guys like, Stott, sometimes Maton. I mean, these guys, Stott, I believe he has to be up there leading with doubles at some point. It seems like every time he's getting on base, he's hitting a double. I don't know what his stats are. But who else needs to step up for you? Is it a defensive player that is doing all right batting but needs to step up defense? Is it someone who needs to step up offense? Tell us what you think.
Man, of course, defensively, that's always going to be the one Achilles heel of this team. I think that's just a team improvement that just needs to improve entirely as a whole. But if it's one person, I think nobody is kind of looking for improvement from. They're just liking the fact that he's just been steady and being able to contribute just a little bit. If we can get Nick Castellanos to start swinging the right way, start swinging the way that got him paid, 5 years, $100 million to come here, then it's a wrap. This series is a wrap because because most of the teams in the MLB really can't hit with the Phillies. The one thing I think the Astros don't want to have happen, they don't want to go bat for bat with the Phillies because for the most part, they can't. They have a couple of good hitters, but they don't have the amount of hitters and the kind of hitters that the Phillies have. The strategy for them isn't to go bat to bat. But if Castellanos adds to the already hot bats that have already gotten hot, as Kyle Schwarber has, as Bryce Harper has, and even hell, you can even throw in shoot. What's it? God damn it. Why am I forgetting his name? First baseman. God damn it. I'm so damn excited.
Can't be forgetting Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah, I forgot Rhys Hoskins. I've disrespected that man so much. I've wanted him traded. Man, look. But if those guys if Nick Castellanos could get hot right along with those guys, oh my gosh, you're talking big shit. Seriously. It's a wrap. The series is a wrap.
Yeah. Also, where are my manners? I should be putting this World Series hat on right above my Wawa headband that I have on too. Because as soon as I returned, I was out of the country in Italy. As soon as I returned back to the Philadelphia area, I ordered a cheesesteak. My dad, I'm grateful for him for getting me this World Series hat I'm now wearing, and I got a Wawa headband underneath. I'm gonna flip it backwards, wear it like Bryce Harper does above his Philly fanatic headband. For those of you who aren't watching but listening right now, that's exactly what I'm doing. I also, by the way, I got a Pulp Fiction-esque fanatic and gritty shirt on. I'm ready to go, T. I am in the mood for Phillies baseball. I can't believe we're still talking about the Phillies. Usually, we're done talking about them. We don't want to hear about them until next season. But continuing on to this with pitching, T. I mean, the Phillies have to play complementary baseball. They have to be lights out on the mound. Aaron Nola starting game 1. You have Zach Wheeler at the 2. You also have Ranger Suarez at the 3, who has proved himself. But that's 3 pitchers, T. You can't win in just 3 games, and it's hard to win those 3. You go to the other side, and this is something the Phillies used to say and have on their T-shirts. It used to say the 4 aces. That's true for the Houston Astros because they have Justin Verlander, Valdez, Javier, and McCullers Jr. pitching. That is going to be real crucial for the Houston Astros. And then not only talking about starting pitchers, T, but you have the Astros who have the bullpen advantage because they, judging by run prevention, they also had more than 4 good starters, like I mentioned. They bumped some of those down the bullpen, and they just have a lot of guys in the bullpen ready to go out there. Was what I said. Hopefully, what I said was still heard out on the airwaves. But they have Ryan Presley, Montero, and T. Did you think we'd hear this name again? Hector Neris. Hector Neris, T.
The ire of my damn.
They're going to get the most high leverage work, and hopefully it bites them in the butt to put Hector Neris out against his old team. The Astros have a .82 bullpen ERA. It's going to be hard. Complimentary baseball. When Aaron Nola goes out there and Zach Wheeler, these are guys that can go into 6-7 innings. But that'll all be for nothing if you don't produce any runs on the other side. We mentioned Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Rhys Hoskins. JT Realmuto is someone who needs to step it up as well. Yep. But is there anything more that worries you in this matchup, T?
You know what? That's pretty much about it. For the most part, yeah, it's the defense and worrying, and the big thing for me, worrying whether or not are the bombs going to continue to go. I mean, for me, I do think the bombs will continue to go, so I'm not going to necessarily overstress myself about that. But at the same time, I've said this the entire season. You can't necessarily stress over the fact that this team has relied heavily on their bombs, and it has gotten them this far, and it needs to continue. The question is, will it continue? Let's hope, because as you just said, this Astros bullpen is elite. All right, this is a very elite bullpen, and they rely heavily on keeping scores low. So if you can hit through their bullpen, then doggone it, you're going to be able to beat them in this series. But it's going to be hard. Definitely going to be hard.
Yeah, definitely. And as we wrap this one up, talking about the Phillies, obviously top priority. The Eagles have a matchup on Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a Pennsylvania Bowl. They're 2-5, T. You got a few guys out like TJ Watt. He has practiced this past week, but does not look like he will be ready to be playing in Philadelphia. And this is, if the Eagles play their cards right, this should be a relatively easy game, T. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Philly Experience podcast. Tune in, as we'll probably be dropping another bird's nest after the Steelers game. Hopefully Max and I will be back and ready.
Now, hopefully I'll be ready too, because WIP is literally operating on all hands on deck situation with the Phillies.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And thanks for taking over Bird's Nest last week, T. Really appreciate it.
That was a real quick thing. It was nothing special.
Go Phillies.
Woo!
Stay off the weed. It's ridiculous.
I'm sick of this.
Shut your yap.
He pisses me off.